Number 3, remember to answer the question as it's asked. We've already heard, all of us, even though you guys have not seen each other's ads, we've all seen them. We've got your palm cards, we want answers. So, we have witnessed election fraud in at least 6 of our states in 2020. Stalin once said, those who vote decide nothing. Those who count the vote decide everything. One thing is for certain, if we do not maintain a fair election that is free of corruption from outside influence like Facebook, we will lose everything. Will you eliminate ERIC, or the Electronic Registration Information Center, and what specifically will you do as governor to guarantee that voting is fair in Alabama and free of outside influence? It's time we will start with Mr. James.
ERIC should be eliminated. We pay $25,000. It's nothing but a data collection system looking for people that maybe have died or they moved, and no one has a clue what this data is being used for, and it's always amazed me, how did they do this for $25,000? So that is a recipe for disaster. Relative to the presidential election, I absolutely believe that you had massive fraud in these states, especially where you had the digital machines. And I think it's time to consider the full paper ballot all the way across the board. And to be totally honest, you talk to the Secretary of State, you talk to these guys running for, you get a different answer on whether you can hack into these things or the Bluetooth and all. I don't understand how it works. I have to talk to my kids. And I've yet to get a clear answer. And if someone can give me 100% clear answer, I'm up. But obviously, free elections is the cornerstone of a free nation. And I will say this as well, even in Alabama before the presidential election, where I believe Trump lost it, he had it stolen in 3 or 4 states. Corruption has always existed here in Alabama. There's no rule of thumb, actually, in a governor's race, which is you had to win by 5% to cover the spread in the general election. So cheating does occur. You have old school cheating that we can absolutely correct. And then the technological stuff, I will bring in the very best minds who understands this stuff to hem up any holes that might be in it. We can't have Swiss cheese in our election process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James. Mr. Jones.
Well, I don't want to leave it up to Eric to count our votes either. I don't want to leave it up to Chad hanging around, making sure that things are counted correctly. I think we should go back to an old tradition, actually, I don't know if you've heard of this, where you actually, in Vietnam, they would take a ink, and this ink is a permanent ink, and you would dip your finger in that ink, and that let everyone know that you voted. So I'm an advocate of bringing back that system where we use the ink and make sure that if you voted, that your finger is inked.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Odom.
Yes, well, definitely we need to get rid of ERIC. As Tim said, it's just a data gathering mechanism, rumored funded by George Soros. We don't have anything like that in our state. I think as governor, what I would need to do to secure our elections, again, is to put pressure on the Attorney General to begin to convict some of these people. I've talked with people in this campaign. In 2018, there were voting machines in Jefferson County that went out the door, came back in, and the votes were there for Jones to beat Judge Moore. This video was presented to people in charge and nothing was done about it. This is one of our biggest problems. Now, as for voting, I want to tell you right now, I think the only way we secure our voting is paper ballots across the board. We keep them, have receipts on them, numbers, serial numbers. You get a part of that receipt, and I believe audits ought to be done every election to see where the cheating's happening, and then people need to go to jail, period. I went to Secretary of State Murrell's first voter fraud task force meeting, and he was talking about easing the penalties for those who commit voter and election fraud, even doing away with jail time. This is the problem, folks. We have rhinos in Montgomery, Republican in name only. They don't respect our laws or our elections, and we have got to have a law and order governor, and when it comes to elections, I will be that.
Mr. Thomas.
Thank you. Well, I agree we should eliminate Eric. Anytime technology is involved in something this important, there's room for a backdoor corruption opportunity. It's just not prudent on our part. I'm reminded, and you may remember as well, it took so many years, supposedly, to find Osama bin Laden because his courier communicated by what? Pencil and paper. And that's how they eluded one of the most technologically advanced militaries in the world. Getting to our elections, our ballots, I don't think there's anything more safe than our paper ballot. But as Dean pointed out, I didn't mean to use your name there, I don't know if the rebuttal will be required, but audits. You know, whether it's an aha moment or a duh-huh moment, I mean, why have we not conducted audits after every election from the very beginning? I think Ronald Reagan's foreign policy said it best, trust but verify. And so we need to have audits after every election, just to make sure that everything's on the up and up. And those who do try to steal an election from the voters need to pay a very stiff penalty. Time, sporting an orange jumpsuit 7 days a week. Anyhow, voter ID. Glad that we finally have it. As I recall, Scott, you and I fought for that years ago. I ran on that for Secretary of State. My personal story is when I ran for re-election in 1998, the remaining two Democrats, the probate judge and the circuit clerk, two of the three election officials. Circuit clerk went on vacation right before the election for 2 weeks. She's getting ready to retire. The absentee ballot boxes sat unsecured at her walk-in safe. The security tape had been tampered with. Tried to have those ballots thrown out from the voters in Moody, which is a Republican stronghold. Thankfully, we held on. But that's what's given me the fire in the belly like none other up here for honest election and ballot security.
I too would get rid of Eric. Anything electronic you can hack into. I, in my degree, got 5 different languages and computers and learned that in Fortran you can do a comma, a dot, a space, and change the way things are counted. So I would also eliminate the counting machines. I would go strictly to paper and not even use counting machines because you can mess with that as well. I would create an election task force to be sure that the people that have cheated and are harvesting ballots, I would certainly want those people prosecuted to the fullest degree so that we set precedents. And on the day that we vote should be the day that we vote. It should be one day only, not day after day after day. And on audits, an honest person will show you their books in anything. So certainly we should audit, every state should audit. And I'll tell you, after the election in 2020, I had a lot of people coming up to me, when I was working abroad, and they said, please, please get it right. Be sure the United States gets it right in the election. Because if you don't get it right, so goes the world. And so we've got to get election integrity right. Sorry.
That's okay. You did great. Well, I was waiting for the timer to restart.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Burnett.
Thank you. Election fraud is definitely a national security issue. Concerns all of us. Collection of data concerns all of us. Is there personal information in there? We worry about things like that, don't we? And that's why Eric's got to go. We don't want our data being shared in some national database and we don't know what is done with it or where it goes. and whatever kind of information comes back. So I think we're all clear on that. You know, we have work to do in Alabama in our election system. We had counties in 2020 that voted at 100% or greater than the number of registered voters. That tells me that we got work to do in this state. We have work to do in passing a stronger fraud prevention fine, if you want to call it that. You know, it makes no sense that the same fine for littering is the same fine for voter fraud at $500. That makes no sense. We have to change that. Voter fraud must be prosecuted, and if you're prosecuted for voter fraud, you shouldn't be able to vote again, right? You lose the right to vote if you engage in voter fraud. We need to pass bills, and there have been bills that have been brought up in the legislature that would review the processes and make it law that we have security with our online systems, that we have security with our Bluetooth systems. There's processes for that they say are secure, but we need Alabama laws supporting that. Thank you.
So next, this lightning round is for Linda Blanchard. If God forbid you had to drop out of the race, who would you vote for?
God.
As governor, would you remove unconstitutional regulations and permits involving oil and gas exploration, production, and transportation?
100%.
Do you believe the COVID-19 vaccine is beneficial?
Semi.
Were you appointed as an ambassador due to your family's donation to Trump's candidacy?
No.
Did you, and as governor, will you support bills like this session's SB 312 and HB 31?
Yes.
Did you drop out of the Senate race to chase Trump's endorsement?
No.
Thank you, Ms. Blanchard.
Pleasure.
Oh, I forgot to ask you,
Yes.
are you aware of the Montgomery pick list?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, well, next question. I forgot where we started last time. I think we're starting with, so we're going to start with Donald on this one.
Yes.
President Biden wants to end Title 42, which deals with the pandemic-related public health policy that has restricted the flow of illegal aliens into the United States. A recent Fox News story stated that if rescinded, it will bring an estimated 18,000 illegals across the border every day, or up to 6.5 million people per year. Also, we have seen the federal government secretly flying these illegals to many cities across the nation in the middle of the night, and the current Ivey administration has done absolutely nothing. A two-part question. First part, are you aware of any of these illegal flights coming into the state of Alabama? The second part is, and what will you do to prevent this from happening in the future? Donald?
First of all, I just want to say that I think it's important to remember that everything is protected by a border. Your home is a border. Your skin is a border. So I think it's important to remember that a country has borders. It's crucial that we protect those borders, and that anybody who comes in a way that we can vet and understand why they're here and make sure that they have good intentions. I was not aware that any illegal people were coming into Alabama, and as far as what I would do, it's really more of a federal issue in my mind. But if Alabama was called to do something or play a part in something, I would be 100% in agreement.
Thank you, Donald. Dean?
Yes, I'm aware of some of these flights. Of course, some of it is rumored, and we couldn't confirm it. We had our campaign team looking into it and even asking some of our legislators. But this stuff is not new. This stuff was going on under Obama, except I remember it was the white buses shipping people all over the country. This is an agenda. It's not just an agenda of an Obama and Biden administration or our third term of Obama that we have now. This is an agenda that's coming down from the top because they want to flood our country with illegal aliens, and not just people from Mexico that are looking for jobs. I have a friend who's been a border agent in Texas for many years, almost 30 years now, and he tells me the problem is that we have Chinese and Muslim people coming across the border all the time, and they're getting shipped all over the country in different places. This has to be stopped. Now, here in Alabama, what I would do to stop these flights and to stop this from going on, if need be, I would declare an emergency and call out the National Guard. You know, we do have a squadron here of F-16s, and I think we're supposed to get F-35s coming up here in January of 2023. We can put a stop to illegal activity, and we can just tell the federal government, you're not going to put anybody here that we don't want here, and you're certainly not going to do it under the cover of night and secrecy. I plan on making things a little more difficult for all that to happen with some task force that'll be a little more covert and scary.
Thank you, Dean. Dave?
Thank you. I'm not so sure that my tactics would be covert. I'd be right in their faces, right on the line. With regard to illegal flights into Alabama, no, I'm not aware of any as of yet. I suspect that given the opportunity, they'll be bringing them here just as soon as possible. We need a governor that will not let that happen. Not just give nice rhetorical speaking points, talking points about illegal immigration and what it is doing to this country, but someone who will actually, as you pointed out, well, you and I are agreeing on a lot these days, activating the National Guard. I mean, you know, we've got to have a governor who's got the intestinal fortitude and backbone to do what may be unpleasant or unseemly for some. And that is to stand strong and not waver. There's a proper way to come to this country. And I don't have a problem or issue with immigration. What I have a problem with is illegal immigration. And so when found, whether it's packed into the back of a reefer semi or found on a farm or business where we've got people employing illegals, that's where pressure also needs to be applied, not just simply the smugglers, but those who are engaged in using illegals and basically taking those jobs from Alabamians. So as governor, I'll be there standing firm and strong to prevent any overreach from Washington, whether it be mandates or immigration. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
So I've heard possibilities, just like everyone, about the flights, but we do know they're coming in this state. There's a direct line from the Mexican-U.S. border straight into Alabama. We have drug cartels in North Alabama. We need to lock and load against them. I would certainly use ICE and the local law enforcement, and if that didn't work, as ambassador, I used people with our government covertly all the time, protecting the country that I was in and partnering with them on illegals, on drug trafficking, human trafficking, and I would certainly love to be that partner in this state that protects all voters, all Alabamians against illegals. And I do want you to know that when I was ambassador, there are covert operations that people aren't aware of, that they'll just pick them up and all of a sudden they go to the grocery store and they're gone, but they don't hurt them, they take them back. We worked with those situations because they were drug traffickers. And we can do that in this state, even with the ones that are already here. But most importantly, it's a tax burden on us, the taxpayers. We're paying for their homes, their food, their health care, and it's a burden on our health care system. We have people in this state that don't get the health care they need in rural areas, but we have illegals in this state that are getting health care when Alabamians are not. So I will stand firm for all Alabamians first and get these illegals out, put them on a bus, ship them north, just like DeSantis and Abbott. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Wendy. Lou?
Yeah, one illegal immigrant is too many, right? We want our borders closed, right? We don't want open borders in the United States. We must take tough and swift action in Alabama to remove illegals that are here. Ship them to Washington, D.C. and let them deal with it, right? But 2 short years ago, we didn't have to worry so much about border security, did we? So my first action when you elect me governor, and I'm asking for your vote, is to go to work to elect, and this is the solution, this is the answer to our border issues, a governor in Alabama that will go to work to elect the next president of the United States that's the strongest Republican, conservative president that we can go out there and find. Because what happened 2 years ago and the previous 4 years when we had a strong president that would secure our borders, build a wall. So if we elect another president that has conservative values, that is a true conservative, we won't have to worry about our borders so much, will we? We already see that it works when we have that kind of president in the United States. That's what I'll go to do, work to elect that kind of president, strong conservative Republican president in 2024, 2 short years away. Certainly we get very frustrated with what happens at the border. We got to close the border. We got to build the wall. We got to secure our borders to have a secure nation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lou. Tim?
This is what happens when one branch of government does not do what the Constitution requires them to do. You see, this is not overreach. It is the federal responsibility, the federal government's responsibility to secure the borders. They're not doing their job. And so the job falls on the states. Number one, as governor, I would offer and give, if asked, reinforcements to the state of Texas and Arizona and New Mexico. Those governors, they're the backstop right now. It's not the state's responsibility, it's the federal government, and these states are having to step into that role as a backstop. I will send our treasurer. It's not fair that Texas is carrying the load. I have no clue whether the rumors are true that they're dumping illegal aliens into Alabama. And I'm very cautious how we handle our conversation because a lot of these are children. And I had the chance months ago to go down to southwest Texas and go to one of these camps where these children are crossing the border. And I can report to you that you would be proud how the American Army and the government is taking care of these kids. This is hard, and the reason it's hard is because it's not directly a state responsibility, and governors are having to wrestle with this, and it's not their job. The short answer is this: governors are going to be the firewall in the nation in the years ahead, and governors are going to have to stand together, 5, 6, 7, 8 governors standing against this stuff to have any real impact. It's a nation that ignores its borders. It's not a nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
So this lightning round question, this lightning round is for Dave Thomas. Are you aware of the Montgomery pick list?
No.
Do you believe the COVID-19 vaccine is beneficial?
No.
Did you, and as governor, will you support bills like this session's SB 312 and HB 31?
Yes.
Are you in favor of monopoly-run casinos in Alabama?
No.
Do you support the bill for legalization of marijuana as passed by the Alabama legislature in 2021?
Yes.
Are you aware of the Montgomery pickets? I already asked you that. If, God forbid, you had to drop out of the race, who would you vote for?
While I've said a couple of times how much I agree with Mr. Overhill, I'm torn, but I think I'd have to go with Donald Trent Jones.
As governor,
Thank you, Dave.
as governor, would you remove unconstitutional regulations and permits involving, and the rest of it was involving oil and gas exploration, production, and transportation?
Yes.
Thank you. So we're on question number 5. We will start with Dean Odom. According to the National Association of the State Budget Officers, the state of Alabama in fiscal year 2021 had expenditures of over $31 billion. Reportedly, there will be a $1.3 billion surplus, and the taxes are still rising. Unlike the people who are in Montgomery right now who refuse to give us any tax relief and who voted in the perpetual gas tax. As governor, what do you propose the state do with this excess funding?
Well, as a conservative, as a Republican, it's even in the Alabama Republican Party platform that we are for limited government, lower taxes, and we never see this. We never see this in Montgomery. We certainly didn't see it from Governor Kay Ivey when she raised the gas tax. What I want to do, and I think they're the only one, this is the truth, talking about this since day one of my campaign, is that we have to produce wealth here. And the way we produce wealth is we're going to have to go after our oil and natural gas. We have an abundance of oil and natural gas. We have an abundance of rivers. There's new technology, non-dam hydroelectric technology that we can put on the rivers and change the game. But if we nullify, we have a governor who understands the Constitution, the 10th Amendment, the doctrine of nullification, that we can get rid of overreaching federal laws and regulations, just say no, and actually start drilling for our oil and natural gas. If we do that, our state will begin to prosper like other places, like Alaska, like the Dakotas, like we've seen even in places in Canada. If we do that, then we can lower taxes without putting a burden on the budget. But with this surplus, this is a no-brainer. Having a surplus of $1.3 billion, that's not Alabama state money. That is our money. It's our tax money, and it should have come back to us, especially with this hyperinflation and the gas prices and everything else. I want to get rid of the grocery tax, the gas tax, property taxes. I believe to be the most unconstitutional. The government should never be able to take away your property that you've owned and paid for because you can't pay some little tax. It shouldn't happen in America, and that's something I want to get rid of. But we still have to pay for roads and bridges and things, and I believe we can do that. I believe Alabama can become a little Saudi Arabia if we do what we need to do.
Dave Thomas.
Scott, if I remember correctly, the budgets we were dealing with in Montgomery 20 years ago, I think were about $5 billion. So we've gone from roughly $5 billion over 20 years to over $31 billion budget in the state of Alabama. With a $1.3 billion surplus, the first thing that our governor should have done is refunded some of that tax money to the taxpayers. The first thing I want to do as your governor is remove the grocery tax. That's something that affects us all. I agree with the property tax, but I think first we need to eliminate the income tax. I mean, that hasn't been in existence until 1913, and it's just, again, the governor needs to be doing things that are helping Alabama families, not hurting families, not unconstitutional mandates, closures of business. We need to be supporting our citizens and our families. And what greater way to do that than to help you financially get our hands, the government's hands, out of your pocket and get out of your way. In today's current climate, we see a lot of grandparents raising grandchildren. In addition to eliminating the grocery tax and the income tax, I'd like to offer a voucher, a grandchild voucher for grandparents who are having to help make ends meet, whether they're raising the grandchildren or simply helping their children do the same, making ends meet. There's a common expression I heard in Montgomery that really struck a chord with me when talking about reform at that time. I think it was, well, I don't remember what the issue was, it really doesn't matter. But the comment that was made was I didn't realize that this legislation would go this far, or last this long, or cost this much. George Wallace was right when he said there's not a dime's worth of difference between a Democrat and a Republican when Republicans behave just like Democrats, growing business and raising taxes. It's time, Alabama, to remember what being a conservative is. Dave Thomas will bring that.
Okay, so on that money, that's your money, and it should go back to you. Anything that has to do with taxes and tax reduction, that's when you talk about Reaganomics and Trump America First policies. If we put money back in your pocket, our pockets, we spend it in the state. It's a natural progression that we all spend it back in the state. It creates more jobs in the businesses and restaurants. You need more supplies. And so it's just the Reaganomics and Trump policies that are just Republican. It's just conservative. So I would focus on those policies, looking at also flat tax and fair tax and trying to compare all of them on different taxations. And also I've been told there's a middle column in our budget. Have you heard about the middle column, Scott? That is a slush fund, and that supposedly people pull from, and it's the column that it's the you scratch my back, I scratch your back, here's this extra money column. So I would focus in that area. I would look in our budget to see where there's overexpending, where there's deals that have been made that shouldn't have been made, and put back into our budget where it needs to be put back. Just like we run our households. I mean, we don't say, okay, throw in this, throw in that, I owe that, and then keep, creating this budget that is just ballooning. So I would focus on how we can go back to small government, check out that middle column and eliminate it because it's dirty, and it's you pay back Tom, Dick, and Harry. And then focus on how we can just reduce all taxes. I've mentioned grocery tax and business privilege tax. I know they did it already, but only half.
Mr. Burnett.
Yeah, we have the super majority in Montgomery, Republicans, in control of both houses. True Republicans, true conservatives are supposed to stand for less taxes and less government, right? But we never get that out of Montgomery. They just, spending is up 30% in the last 3 years. We've collected $2 billion in new taxes. And what do we get for it? We get higher taxes that are just wrong. You know, we had $770 billion in COVID money that we spent, and they just keep spending. We got $1 billion more coming. We got the $1.3 billion in surplus. So money needs to be put back in Alabamians' pockets because of the inflation that continues to rise and rise and rise. Why hasn't there already been a moratorium on the gas tax? That should have already been done. You know, if Kay Ivey was going to increase our gas taxes 56%, the first thing she did when she was elected and inaugurated in 2019, she should have debated on it, she should have campaigned on it. But another backdoor deal, right? And it's a forever tax, it never stops. My dad owned a small town grocery store. There's no way that we should have a grocery tax. That 4% would go and help every Alabamian. We're one of 13 states that still has a grocery tax. Why didn't we use $770 billion of that money from COVID to put money back in Alabamians' pocket, like the gas tax and the grocery tax? And then they pass help small business, say they're going to help small business by cutting the privilege tax by 50%. Why didn't they do away with all the privilege tax? That would help a lot of small businesses. You know, we just got to do things the right way.
Mr. James?
Government shouldn't grow more than twice the rate of inflation. It's been going on for a decade, and so the revenue line's been going up like this in the state of Alabama while our 8th grade scores have collapsed. There's no correlation between the two. I agree with everyone. Obviously, the gas tax needs to be wiped away. The grocery tax needs to be eliminated. These things are easy. We know these things. We haven't had a serious discussion around tax reform in this state in 10 or 15 years. But I guess the one that drives me nuts is the $1.3 billion surplus last year. Now, normally, over these previous years, our revenue line has been about $400 to $500 million a year. All of a sudden, you jump up to $1.3 billion. How does that happen? It's the federal money. It's the influence of the federal money. So instead of giving this money back, they're spending it, and I get a kick out of it. My chairman, Bill Armistead, he keeps up with this, and I get these emails of all the craziness that this governor's handing out this money. I mean, this governor is, you know, she sees government as her duty is ribbon cutting and thinks that's what governors do. That's really not what your job is. Your job is to tend to business. And so these are the stuff they've been spending your money on. $7 million to pay for some crazy geological survey, $5 million to pay for a cafeteria serving line. And it would be funny if it wasn't true. And it's getting into the hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. These things are nice, and they're nice to have, but they're not a priority when we have a serious mental health issue in this state. We started defunding mental health, and now sheriffs are putting people who have true mental health issues in jail. It's priority. It's having horse sense and knowing what to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James.
Is that all? Did you go down?
I didn't go.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
One more.
It's yoga.
It's yoga. The answer is yoga. Actually, I would fund yoga programs with the money. But on a serious note, I think when you do alleviate that sense of burden on the people, your people are happier. And the taxes, they're necessary. You have to have them. There's no way to create the infrastructure and the system that we love to enjoy, all of us love to use and operate. There's no way to have that without taxes. However, I think it's very important that you understand where that money goes. There's accountability, that you can see exactly what's happening to that money. So aside from yoga programs, I would appoint a special forces committee to make sure we know where the money's going.
Thank you, Donald. So this lightning round is for Lou Burdett, and like we said before, some of these are common to everyone and some of them were chosen specifically for the candidate. We'll start with, if God forbid you had to drop out of the race, who would you vote for?
My wife.
Did you, and as governor, will you support bills like this session's SB 312 and HB 31?
Absolutely.
Do you believe the COVID-19 vaccine is beneficial?
No.
As governor, would you remove unconstitutional regulations and permits involving oil and gas exploration, production, and transportation?
Yes.
Are you aware of the Montgomery pick list?
Yes.
Because of your past, do you have a plan to combat child trafficking and kidnapping?
Yes.
Is your temperament too nice to be governor?
No.
Thank you, Lou. This is question 6. It's our last question. I think Lindy's the only one who hasn't started a round of questions. Is that right? So Lindy will be up first. To sponsor a bill and move it along through the legislative process in Montgomery, one has to have all the lobbyists, such as the Business Council of Alabama, MASA, Alabama Pharmacy Association, and others read and approve the bill before it can even get on the calendar. That's not the way the civics book says it is, but it's pretty close to the way it really is. As one concerned citizen, it is obvious that the lobbyists are inserted between we the people of Alabama and our representatives. 1, are you aware of this insidious process? And 2, how are you going to change it?
It's embarrassing that we allow our lobbyist groups and special interest groups to lead this state and direct decisions made for the people of Alabama when they don't represent our voice. They're not what we're thinking. These special interest groups are sending money to us, trying to. I don't take their money. There's big PAC money out there to direct governor candidates right now. There's big business money out there that's being sent to candidates right now. So I would implore everyone to just go look at the candidates list on contribution, and you'll see the lobbyists and special interest and big business and PACs that are supporting the candidates. That's how you know what you're going to get for the next governor. And so what I would do is I would call them out. It's your job as governor to be the voice of the people, to be the megaphone, to say, here's what's happening. This lobbyist or PAC wants this bill put up, and this bill is non-transparent. This bill has their only special interest in heart, and it's picking a winner or loser. That is not the way we need to run a business, a government, a state. We need to be a forceful group together and use our voice, take this Ephesians 6 moment, put on your armor, and go to work against these big entities. It's gonna take more than one governor candidate, but if you're a great governor, you can use your voice, be the voice of the people, and sound the megaphone.
Thank you, Lindy. Lou?
Yeah, from day one of my campaign, that was the mantra that I had from the very beginning. We have got to restore trust in Montgomery. It's got to be one of the top priorities. And how do we do that? In my opening remarks, I outlined that we're the 4th most politically corrupt state in America. Because just think about it. Can any of us remember a decade when somebody in Montgomery hasn't gone to jail, resigned because of ethics violations, or been indicted? That's why we're the 4th most politically corrupt state. And so just follow the money. And until we limit campaign contributions, remember, we're one of 5. People are astounded that we're one of 5 states that allows unlimited campaign contributions. That is wrong. That's why I took such a tough stand on this issue. And I self-imposed a $10,000 limit on my campaign because I felt like I had to walk the walk. I had to set the example. And I hope that is an example of the kind of bold, courageous leadership that you'll have with me in Montgomery, to always stand to do what's right. And it is the right thing to do to limit campaign contributions in Montgomery. It is wrong because it is a legalized payoff system that we have down there. And it has got to stop. It has got to stop. So that will be one of the first things, thank you. And it'll be one of the first things that I do, to have complete campaign transparency on how money is given. And it flows in, we know, from millions. Why does gambling stay at the top? Because millions is flowing into Montgomery. Funding that kind of effort is wrong.
Thank you, Lou. Tim?
The most, and this is not a lightning round, the most unused word in Montgomery is no. No! A governor has a pen. It's called a veto. The legislature sends a gas tax, veto it. The legislature sends a medical marijuana bill that's just nothing but a syndicated drug cartel disguised as medicine to sell dope on the street. Veto, veto, veto. That's what governors do. That's your job. And then on things that you want to pass, a governor has tremendous authority. You know, education, everyone is pretty much in agreement, but people say, how are you going to get it done? How are you going to get it through the legislature? Here's how you do it. They're going to fight you tooth and nail. The AEA and all the rest of them. A governor uses the most least used thing I haven't seen, to be honest, since my dad was governor. It's called the bully pulpit. And what a governor does is a governor goes into every county, every city, every town. You call a town hall meeting like this and you lay out your plan in education, what you're trying to do. That way when the politicians, and you're not going to get rid of all the politicians. They're going to exist. They've been around since the foundation of the nation. But you bring the people into it. So when they come home, they go to Huntsville and they're walking down the street and they go to church or whatever. And people walk up to them and say, you better support James's Reconstruction plan for education. You have to use the bully pulpit to do it. That's how you get them to do things they don't want to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. Donald?
Would you mind repeating the question?
You're going to make me put my old person's glasses back on. Let's see. As one concerned citizen, it is obvious that the lobbyists are inserted between we, the people of Alabama, and our representatives. One, are you aware of this insidious process? And two, how are you going to change it?
Yoga.
Thank you. Thank you, Donald. Dean?
Yes. Well, number one, I am aware of the lobbyists up in the State House. In fact, I got to see them up close and personal when we were up there. And I was up there behind the people pushing for HB 31 that would stop the discrimination, employers firing people over the vaccine status. We watched them kill that, really weaken it to neuter it till it was nothing. We saw them do that just recently with SB 312 that would have made hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, the doctors could have prescribed those things. The money's coming in from Big Pharma. What most people don't know is that 75% of all the ads bought, TV advertising across the country, 75% of it comes from Big Pharma. Big Pharma has bought most of our congressmen and senators and our state legislators. They are controlled by this money. So I agree with my opponents down the line that talk about we're going to have to make PACs illegal. But I want to remind everybody here of something in the press. You need to get this one. Because this came out in the press in 2018. It came out in Yellowhammer News. It came out in the Alabama Political Reporter. It was very clear, and I've checked this myself. But what we found out is that in 2018, Kay Ivey took $103,000 from PACs from George Soros. The same PACs gave her Democrat opponent, Walt Maddox, $600,000. Let me ask you a question. Why do we have George Soros funding both sides in our state? That right there has to be stopped. And the only way we stop it is to stop these PACs and these super PACs. We must make them illegal in Alabama. And that's what I will do as your governor.
Thank you, Dean. Dave?
Thank you. You know, we hear a lot of rhetoric about corruption and the need for ethics reform, campaign finance reform. We have in Alabama some of the toughest ethics laws on the books. That's why when elected officials violate them, they are forced out of office. Let me ask you a question. How many of you in the audience are teachers, school teachers? Do we have any school teachers here tonight? We have a few. How about business owners? Any members of the NFIB, BCA? Yeah. Those are our special interest groups. They're comprised of members of our own community. So they get a bad rap with regard to that label, special interest. But it's those very lobbyists that work for the teachers, that work for small business owners and others that, yes, this is what they do. They go through with a fine-tooth comb to see what impact a piece of legislation is going to have. Now, where we have a problem is, like you talk about, the lack of transparency, where some of this dark money, this influence is being peddled in Montgomery. We need to have transparency. Now, what to do about ending it, as one candidate pointed out, the bully pulpit. One of the things I bring to the table is the legislative experience. Anybody can pick up a book, a rule book, and read it and figure out what the process is. But being there in the trenches, let me just put it this way. There are some rules, legislative rules, that are no longer allowed because of what I have done. I studied the rules. We all live and die by the rules. If you know the rules, you can use them to your advantage. If you don't, someone who does will take advantage of you. So knowing the process, knowing how it works, knowing the hot buttons with the players, and quite frankly, I mean, if you've been to Montgomery, you'll see we've got some of the most prima donnas. They think they're all that and more. Well, as governor, I don't care about ego. You can check it at the door. I care less about rhetoric and more about results. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay, our lightning round question is for Donald Trent Jones.
Excellent.
If God forbid you had to drop out of the race, who would you vote for?
Dean Young.
As governor, would you remove unconstitutional regulations and permits involving oil and gas exploration, production, and transportation?
No.
Did you legally change your name to Donald to play off Donald Trump?
I did not.
Do you believe the COVID-19 vaccine is beneficial?
Maybe.
Did you, and as governor, will you support bills like this session's SB 312 and HB 31?
Maybe.
Are you aware of the Montgomery pick list?
No.
Are you running for governor to promote your yoga nonprofit?
Yes.
All right, since we have time, we've got a special lightning round. And this is how we're going to do it. If you don't like it, that's okay, because this is how we're going to do it. There are going to be 3 questions, so you might want to take notes. And then we just want a yes or a no for all 3 questions. So for whoever, it's probably going to, maybe it'll be a yes, yes, yes kind of thing, okay? And then we'll go down the line, start with Lindy, ending with Dave. So the first question of the 3 is, have you taken any campaign donations from any PAC, political action committees? The
Yes
second,
or now, or
nope,
wait?
nope, it's just going to be 3 words because it's all going to be on the record for everybody. Have you taken any campaign donations from any business association? Which you might be a PAC for anybody who knows that, so it's kind of redundant, but still. Or, oh, my bad, business associate. Have you taken any campaign donation from any business associate?
Let's define that.
Rebecca?
I think what our members were trying to get to was, before, if someone was elected governor, they tend to favor bids or backdoor deals or things like that for business associates. So that's what they're trying to get to.
So former partners?
Former partners, and you're going to have the opportunity to explain this when you do that, but our concern is, are there any backdoor deals that are going to be made that do not include yoga? Are there going to be any backdoor, Or any
Well, they're
back,
not gonna tell you.
well, we just want you on record saying it. That was one that our members ask a lot, because as Alabama being so corrupt, there have been the good old boy networks that my buddy helped me get elected, and now I'm gonna give him the state job.
And I don't think there's it's not implied that a yes or a no is right or it's wrong. I think it's background information for the most part. This is the third, more interesting question. It has been alleged with good information that the Communist Chinese government is very fond of the current governor of the state of Alabama, and that she is rated as one of the governors here in the United States that is, quote, friendly to China. Have you taken any contributions from the Communist Chinese or their agents? Now, the agent part is serious, because these people do play in state elections. We think they don't, but they do. So have you taken any contributions from the Communist Chinese or their agents? Lindy?
No, no, and I wish I could say an H no, but just no. I've worked against Communist China, the party, so.
Thank you. Luke?
No, no, and no. Easy answers.
Tim?
Yes, no.
Thank you. Donald?
No, maybe.
Dean?
No, no, no.
And Dave?
No, no, and no.
Thank you. Now we're going to have what may be the most exciting part, the closing statements from the candidates. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for their closing statement. We will go back the other direction. Opening statement started with you, Lindy, is right? For closing statements, we'll start with Dave and go the other way.
No, we started here and went that way.
Yeah.
On opening statements? Okay, well, she gave me the other one. Lindy, let's do that. Was I right?
I went first on the opening, but that's,
You answered the first question.
you answered the first question.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dave, you're
Glad
up.
we have that in order now. All
I
right.
prefer if you said, Scott, you're right. I really
Scott,
like
you're
that.
right.
Thank
You're
you.
absolutely right. There you go. All right. Well, you know, the campaign theme is It's Time, Alabama. And that was chosen for a reason, because it's time that we have a common sense approach to all of the challenges, quite frankly, that we face. But tonight, and you heard it tonight, you see it on TV, and quite frankly, you're going to hear quite a bit more of it between now and the election. But there's been a lot of fear-mongering. It's time to stop that sort of behavior in our campaigns. I mean, what are we going to do for the people of Alabama? Yes, there are serious challenges that we must face. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and dare say that most of us in this room, and certainly I think all of us on this stage, are professed Christians. But I have a question for you. Does your Bible read different than mine? Mine says, fear not. So let's put an end to this fear-mongering, this fanning of flames of fear. Let's talk about the real challenges and the real opportunities here in Alabama. With my economic plan of reducing the tax burden on Alabama taxpayers, that will pour jet fuel into our economic development engine. With my plan for education reform, by preparing our students with real-life skills, we can turn the corner. It's time, Alabama. Vote Dave Thomas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. Dean?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that we're in big trouble. I know Dave is trying to act like there's nothing to fear. But folks, we are in a dangerous time. We're in perilous times. I will give you a verse, 2 Peter 3:1. Paul said that in the last days, perilous times would come, dangerous times. We're in a time like no other. We don't have the luxury anymore of electing people who are either clueless to what's going on or working for the other side. The World Economic Forum has been very clear. The World Government Summit, United Nations, all of these different groups are getting together and they're saying we're going to weaken the sovereignty of the United States. We're going to bring them down and we're going to bring them under the control of the world government. This is what they are saying. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is conspiracy fact. These people are moving against us. They say you will own nothing and be happy. They say you will not eat any more meat, and they're working on that. They're talking about now that you're going to pay carbon taxes if you want to do certain things. We are headed down the road of China if we don't stop it. I have been studying this agenda, this evil agenda that's coming down upon us for the last 35 years. I know how it works. I know the players. This is why I was able a year ago to predict they would come out with dangerous vaccines and they would mandate them. And the press called me a conspiracy theorist, but a year later, there we are. Folks, you need a governor who actually understands the evil players in this world and is ready to defend you and the state of Alabama. I am not a politician. I'm not the son of a politician. I'm not trying to buy this office. I want to be a leader that will protect you and your freedom. So on May 24th, I want you to go vote Dean Odle for governor of Alabama. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean. Donald?
Just want to say that I've enjoyed being here tonight. I hope I brought a little humor to the situation. This is an amazing thing. This is an amazing event. These are all amazing candidates. I am your yoga governor. I do believe that yoga can improve the people's lives of Alabama. I believe it could help students in school. I think it's very, very important that we care for our children and that we give them tools to help them become better adults. That's what this yoga program is. I got outed, obviously. That's why. She got me. That's why I'm here. I'm promoting this, but I'm also taking part of this process. I love Alabama. Absolutely love Alabama. And I'm very thankful to live here and call this my state and vote for Donald Trent, and let's make Alabama grateful again.
Thank you, Donald. Tim?
In the 1700s, revolution was in the air, fraternity. And it's in the air tonight. It's here now in the nation. And if you're vying for a civil war, you can get it. We've had one. We lost 500,000 Americans. Man is not going to fix this. Man can't do it. Only God can do it. There are two nations in history that were created in covenant with God, Israel and America. If we do not return to our Judeo-Christian foundation, all of this stuff doesn't matter we talked about. That's the key. Making war, fighting, all of this, that's not the answer. We've got to find our soul again. We removed prayer from our public schools in the 60s, and all hell has broke loose in our schools ever since. We let the courts usurp the Constitution in Roe versus Wade, and 75 million unborn babes have been slaughtered. The same court in 2016 in Obergefell woke up one day and just said, arbitrarily, we're going to redefine marriage between men and women. This is unconstitutional. We got to turn it. We have to find our soul. God is the answer. You might say, James, you sound like a preacher. Are you running for governor? I'm telling you the truth. You can talk all of this stuff we have. This is not the answer. The answer is returning to our foundation. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Tim. Luke?
Thank you, Scott, Rebecca. Great debate. Really appreciate Focus on America for having us tonight. You know, in Alabama, we have great people. We have a great state. There's just no reason that we should be at the bottom, right? But that's what we get with lifetime politicians. And was it ever meant to be a lifetime job? No, it wasn't meant to be a lifetime job. That's why people tell me all across this state, Lou, we're so hungry for change. We're so ready for something different. That's why as a true political outsider, my name's never been on a ballot. I've never run for an office in my life. A true business person to go down there, roll up their sleeves, go to work hard to bring real change in Montgomery. That's what I will work for all Alabamians. And look at who is supporting my campaign. Yes, go to the Secretary of State's website. My campaign is being supported by small donations, all less than $10,000. I guess you could say I'm bought and paid for by everyday Alabamians who want to see change in this state. Not by big business, not by big corporations, not by wealthy individuals, and certainly not by PACs. That's got to stop in this state. It's time for a proven, common sense business leader who will lead from out front and not from behind. And on a personal note, I am blessed with the best family in the world. 3 wonderful children, 2 equally wonderful spouses, and truly the best wife in the world who will be the best first lady this state has ever had. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lou. Lindy?
So when I was asked to apply for a position with the president, the PPO office, the Presidential Personnel Office, it was for USAID administration. It was for the work I had done in my nonprofit, working in 14 countries, helping children, working in this state, helping children. And when I did not get that position because a former congressional member got that position, that's when my resume was highlighted for my work in the nonprofit area. So that is how I got the visual in the White House. But how I was educated being ambassador was how I can correlate being governor and partner with this state and the people of this state in what I've already done, what I've already learned. I have worked in energy sourcing in this state in 2 areas, nuclear as well as hydroelectric. I did a hydroelectric partnership port to port, building 2 turbines, one for Lay Lake, one for Lake Martin. That was $78 million. I did a $1 billion deal with the banking industry with the U.S. I did a $20 billion deal with nuclear with Southern Company, signing an MOU with Slovenia and the U.S. for a second nuclear plant, U.S. products. So that's critical. So I'm telling you that I've been that partner for this state that has worked in all areas of trade, and I'm that international connection that we need right now in this world to partner with our allies, not the people that'll be trying to take over this country and this state like the CCP. And it would be an honor to serve for you as your governor. Please vote for me on May 24th, and may God bless you, your families, this state, and all the movement forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lindy. And I want to thank you and Lou and Tim, Donald, Dean, and Dave for being here tonight. It's a huge honor to have you here. I appreciate the passion. One thing I think everybody can agree on is that we've got a group of people, a number of people running for governor who care passionately about this state, and that is very heartening. I appreciate you being willing to come and speak to the people of Alabama. I hate that some people decided not to make it or did not think that any of us, the people of the state, are worth being up here and letting us see them in comparison. That does rub me the wrong way, but I want to thank y'all tremendously for what you're doing and your willingness to campaign for such an important office. And I think everybody probably agrees with that.
Absolutely. It takes a lot to run for office and to be under constant scrutiny and answer the questions and to be honest about them. You know, so we have a heartfelt thank you for you guys coming and doing this, because we know the campaign trail's hard and at least you came up here and you did it. So we appreciate that. I'd also like to thank our celebrity moderator, right? Mr. Scott Beeson, our FLA debate team. So our FLA debate team were Sari Ann Riccio, Bob Retch, Dan Kraft, Rebecca Cothran, Jace Carnes, Richard Langsmith, and all our amazing volunteers who put in countless hours to make this debate a reality. So, if you would like the debate video link emailed to you, please be sure and subscribe to our emails at focusonamerika.us. We sincerely hope that each of you have benefited from the information that was provided with you. From all of us at Focus on America and 1819 News, we thank all of those in attendance, and for the thousands, guys, of online viewers. They were getting comments. I was getting texts about comments that were happening. And it wasn't all just about yoga. I mean, it was great. So I want you guys to please be sure and visit all our great sponsors, vendors, and the candidates will be out in the lobby. So I'm sure they'll go out to their table. They'll be able to answer some of your questions that you would like to ask. And I would almost bet that they have signs and the literature that they would be happy to share with you. So be sure and check them out there. But as you exit, you will receive an opportunity to vote in our straw poll for the gubernatorial candidate of your choice. So take a form as you walk out the door. And then we will have a box that you enter it in as you exit at the registration table. The results of the poll will be posted on our social media pages. We wish you good night, and we thank you again for your willingness to care enough to being an informed voter. Thank you all.
Thank you.